Greetings, my fellow freaks and weirdos. I'm Tom, and welcome to Monster Gab, where we love to talk about all things horror. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the best films to watch on Halloween. If there's ever a night throughout the year to watch a horror movie, I'm sure most would agree that Halloween is the perfect occasion. There are many who aren't even fans of the genre that are willing to get into the spirit and watch something spooky or scary during the festivities. But what is the best film to watch on Halloween? Honestly, if it's horror, I don't think there's a wrong answer. However, for those of us who watch horror movies all year round, we might desire something a bit special, something that represents Halloween in some way. And I don't mean films to watch with the kids. I covered that video last year, links in the description if you missed it. I mean when the kids have gone to bed, or when you've staggered home drunk from a costume party with half a pizza under your arm. When I think of Halloween, I think of monsters. You know, the kind that we used to dress up as when we went trick-or-treating as kids. I think of haunted houses, spooky cemeteries or graveyards. I think of creepy tales and stories. I also think of the kind of movies that were shown on Halloween night by TV networks when I was a kid. And for some reason, 80s slasher movies, because why not? With all of that in mind, I've compiled a list of movies that I think are perfect to watch on Halloween night, at least in my opinion anyway, and you guys can let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let's just get the obvious one out of the way. Simply because it's literally titled Halloween, I guess it makes it an ideal candidate. To be fair though, the first movie from 1978 captures the essence of Halloween quite well. I mean, it takes place on Halloween, as they all do, but here we see kids in costume for trick-or-treating, people pumpkin carving, TV networks playing horror movie marathons in the background, and some guy in a mask hacking people to death with a knife called Michael Myers. You might have heard of him. While I'm at it, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch from 1982 is also a worthy mention. Once again taking place on Halloween, with a lot of focus on masks and costumes, and some traditional paganism for good measure. No Michael in this one, and no need. It has more to do with Halloween than the rest of the franchise as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, oh yeah, I said it. I went there, bro. What? Come at me. Okay, so what about monsters? You can't go wrong with the Universal monsters, really. They're just so traditional, iconic, and legendary. A lot of the creatures featured in these movies inspired the costumes of many trick-or-treaters over the years, still worn by kids today. As great as they are, perhaps films like Phantom of the Opera, The Mummy, or The Invisible Man don't quite capture the Halloween essence. But there are many that do, such as The Wolfman, Dracula, Creature from the Black Lagoon. And if I had to recommend any, it would be Frankenstein from 1931. The creature, the monster, whatever you want to call him, from Frankenstein is not only iconic in the world of Universal monsters, but an important piece of horror movie history. His image alone is one thing, but the performances from Boris Karloff and Colin Clive are an outstanding slice of entertainment. The movie is so gothic too. A good old Hammer horror movie won't go amiss on Halloween night, and even their takes on the previously mentioned monsters are a good choice. Frankenstein and Dracula once again, Curse of the Werewolf too. My recommendation would actually be The Mummy on this occasion, as it's more your stereotypical mummy monster. Wrapped up in bandages with outstretched arms, it's a real classic from 1959. Werewolves make for a great Halloween monster. I've already mentioned The Wolfman and Curse of the Werewolf, but there are so many to choose from. American Werewolf in London is an obvious favourite, with subtle humour in places and one of the best werewolf transformation scenes ever created. My choice though would be 1981's The Howling. For me personally, this film has a more authentic feel to it that's fitting to the Halloween spirit. Some of the effects have dated, but the werewolf transformation scene is equally as impressive, and it's a solid horror movie. Hey horror fans, this video is sponsored by Zealous Rebellious Clothing, who believe in encouraging self-confidence, self-expression and the pursuit of passions without compromise. Based in North Wales, they use their passion for classic cars, music, film and societal non-conformity to inspire their designs, with hoodies, t-shirts, hats and much more, using only quality materials and prints. Be different, be rebellious. Zealous Rebellious Clothing. Check out their website, Facebook page and other socials, links in the description below. Perhaps the most traditional style of movie for this time of year is The Legend of Sleepy Hollow from 1999. A ghost story based in the 1800s about a headless horseman who terrorizes a sleepy village. The movie is also cinematically beautiful thanks to Tim Burton's visionary brilliance. It is horror, but with a true feeling of fantasy. Graveyards and cemeteries are symbolic when it comes to Halloween. There are so many horror films that feature graveyards. We've already mentioned Frankenstein, which has a morbid grave-digging scene, and Pet Sematary is a great example too. I'm going with Night of the Living Dead from 1968. The movie literally opens in a cemetery where the dead become flesh-eating zombies and rise to the surface. It's an absolute classic, and zombies also make for a great Halloween monster. And this movie by George A. Romero started it all. Not the traditional voodoo-style zombies, but the modern kind we're all used to that like to feast on brains. It all started thanks to this little gem. Haunted houses, again, so many to choose from, and though I'd love to throw a modern film into the mix just to shake things up a little bit, The Conjuring from 2013 comes to mind for example, well, I've gone for another classic because, once again, my list is about capturing the vibes of Halloween. House on Haunted Hill from 1959 is what I've gone for. With blood-curdling screams, blood dripping from the ceiling, a walking skeleton, a severed head, secret rooms and doorways, and a bunch of strangers who are guests for a dinner party trying to solve a murder mystery. It's goofy, it's cheesy, and it all takes place in a haunted mansion. It's very reminiscent of the old Scooby-Doo cartoons in many ways. If anything, a fun little romp and well worth watching on Halloween night. When it comes to storytelling or dark tales, anthology films, also known as omnibus films or portmanteaus, are the way to go. Why go for one big story when you can have a bunch of small ones, ideal for Halloween night? After all, on such an occasion, and in this case, it's probably less about the depth of the story and more about the contents within. And with these types of films, you're getting more bang for your buck. I'm a huge fan of the Amicus movies myself, and From Beyond the Grave from 1974 or The Vault of Horror from 1973 would be my suggestions. But seriously, there are so many to choose from, it's really hard to go wrong. Creepshow 1 and 2, Cat's Eye, the VHS films, Tales from the Dark Side. These are just examples. Of course there's Trick or Treat from 2007 or All Hallows Eve from 2013, which are clearly Halloween themed movies. Any of the above gets my approval. When I was a kid, I remember TV networks and stations showing horror movie marathons on Halloween night. A bit like the one featured in the movie Halloween. It was usually 3 films, maybe more, and they were kind of horror, but also of the B-movie sci-fi variety. Films like Them, about giant killer ants, or Day of the Triffids, about giant killer plants, Night of the Body Snatchers, Village of the Damned. They weren't particularly scary, but fun romps all of the same. For the sake of my nostalgia, why don't we make our own sci-fi B-movie marathon? The 1980s gave us 3 horror masterpieces with The Thing, The Fly and The Blob, each sporting some of the best practical effects seen in movies. Even now, those effects still look great and the movies too are superb. But they are indeed remakes of films that came out in the 1950s. It's one of those rare occasions where most people will say the remakes are actually better, and I have to hold my hands up and say when it comes to these three movies, I kind of agree. But the originals are not to be sniffed at. In fact, Halloween is a good opportunity to check them out, and back to back, as they make for a great movie marathon. The Thing, or The Thing from Another World as it's originally known, from 1951 is probably my favourite of the three. It's quite tense and atmospheric at times, a decent film, but all three together? Yeah, I'm up for that. And finally, how about a good old mindless 80s slasher? To be honest, slashers are not my favourite subgenre when it comes to horror, but they are fun and they make for an easy watch, which also makes for a good late Halloween evening. A bunch of teens getting picked off one by a masked killer? It sounds like a typical film to watch on Halloween. Who am I to break tradition? I mean, we've already covered the movie Halloween, but take your pick. Friday the 13th, Hellraiser, Nightmare on Elm Street? Well, I'm picking Funhouse from 1981. Because of its many horror references within the film, tipping its hat to other films of the horror genre, I think it's a solid choice to watch on Halloween. There's nods to films like Psycho, Halloween, Dracula, and many Frankenstein references too. It also features a bunch of dumb teenagers who you know are going to get it. You know, pot-smoking, pubescent, horny teenagers who break into a ghost train-like funhouse that's part of a trashy carnival and plan on spending the night there. They're not particularly likeable or memorable characters, which is fine because you're not going to miss them if anything was to happen. The intro to this movie is creepy, with lots of hideously looking mechanical puppets. And it was directed by Tobe Hooper, who also directed the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I do like this one. Anyway, folks, they are my choices of films that I would recommend watching on Halloween night. Sorry that most of them are of the classic variety, but I guess that's me. You know what I'm like, I love my classic and vintage horror films. But what films do you recommend? Please do let me know in the comments section below. Do you agree with the films in my list? Do you disagree? Once again, let me know in that comment section. And until next time, I don't know who they are, but if you don't subscribe, they will get you. So make sure you are indeed subscribed. Click that notification bell so you don't miss out on any new video here on Monster Gab. Like the video if you did indeed like it. Share this with your friends and leave that comment down there. Thank you so much for stopping by. Take care. See you soon. Bye bye.